So if I which quadrant is 5 pi over 6? So the second is 5 pi over 6 right here. So when we were reference angle, the reference angle goes from the x-axis to the terminal side. And we know this is, and it's pi. But if this is 6, then pi would be, right, get to pi. So if I used 5 pi, how much is left for this little bit right here? Right? It's just pi over 6. That math anything with the 6 on the so that's why we learn the first quadrant, because the denominator is the reference angle is. And like what we were doing to start with, you can do the whole entire circle just by knowing the first quadrant, okay? So we're going to work on some special ones today. I'm going to hand back your quizzes too. But a couple of you missed. I'm going to real quick run over the quadrantals. So the quadrantal for 0, which is the same for 2 pi, right? 0 and 2 pi are the same. That's going to be 1 and 0. My pi over 2 is 0, 1. My pi gives me negative 1, 0, because that's in the negative x direction. And then my 3 pi over 2, that gives me 0, negative 1, because that's in the y direction for the unit circle. Okay. Okay, so starting on Friday, we had to use the Pythagorean theorem to find r, right? So what does the r equal? So wherever there's an r, it's the 1. So the sine of x is y. The cosine of x is the x. The cosecant is the to the sine, so it's 1 over y. And the secant is 1 over x. The tangent is always y over x, so the inverse would be x over y. So what I want to talk about then is find specific values. So for instance, if I have the sine of 135 degrees, so first of all, which if in the second, right? So if this is 135, this is 45, the reference angle. So I want sine. Is y positive or negative in the second? Positive. So we know that kind of the same 35. So it's the square root of 2 over 2, and it's positive. So the cosine of 3 pi over 4, which quadrant is this in? Second, is cosine positive or negative? Negative, because the x is negative in the second quadrant. So I'm going to have a negative answer. And my reference angle is pi over 4, so the answer is negative square root of 2 over 2. So then what happens if I have a secant? So first of all, the secant of 180 degrees. That's the secant of pi, right? We know that 180 is pi. So the secant is 1 over x. So I want the x value at 180 degrees. So if I go over here, my value over here is -1, 0. This is the cosine, and this is the sine. That is your x and your y. So if this is 1 over x, what's the x value? So I'm going to have 1 over -1 equals -1. The cotangent is going to be x over y. And it's at -300 degrees. So what happens when I'm doing negative? I go the opposite way. So if I go the opposite way and I go -300 degrees, I'm over here. If it's negative, how many degrees do I have for right here for the reference angle? 60, right? And so which one of these would that be? This is 30, 45, 60. So it's pi over 3. So I want my x value at pi over 3 and my y value at pi over 3. And in the first quadrant, they're both positive, correct? So at pi over 3, the x value is 1/2, and the y value is the square root of 3 over 2. What do I do with the fraction? This is divide. I'm going to change it to multiplication and flip the bottom. So I'm going to have 1/2 times 2 over the square root of 3. What happens to the 2's? They cancel, and I have 1 over the square root of 3. Can I have a square root of 3 on bottom? So I'm going to go ahead and rationalize the denominator. So I'm going to get the square root of 3 over 3. The cosecant of 120. So which quadrant am I in? I'm in 2. So if I go 2, how many degrees to come up? It's 60, right? Because that's 180. 60 is here. Cosecant, which one is it? It's the inverse of the y. So I want the y value, which is 1 over the square root of 3 over 2. Is y positive in the second quadrant or negative? It's positive. So I'm going to have to flip the bottom. So I'm going to get 2 over the square root of 3, and I have to rationalize. So I get 2 square roots of 3 over 3. So if I'm going to do tangent 70, so first of all, the tangent of 270, that is a quadrantal. So that goes here. So the value here is 0 and -1. The tangent is y over x. So my y value is -1 and my x value is 0. Can I divide by 0? No. So this one is undefined. So the cosine of -150. So first of all, which quadrant would -150 put me in? 3. And if I'm at -150, what is how many do I have left? 30. So where is that on my hand? Which one? It's this one, right? This is my 30 degree. So pi over 6. So I'm going to have, I want to know first of all, I want cosine. Is cosine going to be positive or negative? Negative. And so the cosine is going to be up, so it's the square root of 3 over 2. Okay, all of you try the last 5. Last 5. No? Okay, so what did you get for 18? Okay, we'll wait. what is tangent equal to? Alyssa? Tangent, what's it equal to? It's written on the board. Okay, what are you in? No? This is one less, so where is that? So, is what's positive and what's negative? The top of what? Well, so is the 3. I want to know which value, x and y, which are positive and which are negative. Huh? Y is positive and what's x? So what's the value of y? What is your reference angle here? Okay, so which one's your x? Okay, so that's going to go on the square root of 3 over 2 is not your x. That's your y. Okay, so this is 1 over 2 and minus square root of 3 over 2. Then what do I do? So we're going to do 1/2 times 2 over negative square root of 3. The 2's cancel. Can I have square root? So when you rationalize it, you end up with 3 over 3. Pi over 2. Taylor. She's not here. Never mind. I know. I was going to get her. She wasn't here. Gabby. Pi over 2. So what is the tangent equal to? X over y. And at pi over 2, what are my values? So x is and y is. So my value is secant of negative pi over 4. Jordan. Just go right across. Okay, negative pi over 4. What quadrant does that put me in? Huh? It puts me in the 4th. So in the 4th, I want secant. What is secant equal to? So is x positive or negative? Positive. And so pi over 4, what is x and y are both equal to? 2 over 2. So I'm getting 1 over the square root of 2 over 2. I have to divide and flip. So I'm going to do 1 times 2 over the square root of 2, which is going to give me 2 over the square root of 2. So I end up with square root of 2 answer. 5 pi over 4. Which quadrant am I in, Caitlin? Third. So in the third, what is true about x and y? They're both negative. So I know I have a negative y over a negative x, correct? X, and my reference angle is pi over 4. We know that both of the answers are the same, negative square root of 2 over 2, negative square root of 2 over 2. The first of all, negative divided by negative is 2 over 2 is 1. Cosecant of negative 5 pi over 6. So first of all, if this was a positive, which quadrant would that be in? 2, right? But if I go to which quadrant does that put me in? The third. So what's true in the third? Both negative. Cosecant is equal to 1 over sine, which is the y. So I know the y has to be negative. So I'm going to have 1 over a negative. Pi over 6. Pi over 6 is here. The y is a half. So when I flip that, I get